Welcome to Empire Building. I'm Wendy Papasan, and together with my 4 co-hosts, we bring you weekly unfiltered conversations about leadership, growing a big empire, and living on your own terms.
I'm Kimber Levitt-Keaty. We are investors and wealth builders with over $75 million in combined net worth.
I'm Sarah Reynolds. We are visionaries who built more than 50 businesses with over $122 million in annual revenue.
I'm Tiffany Fikes. We've led thousands of people and do it all while being pretty good moms.
And I'm Seychelle Van Poole. We are your podcast to learn how to build big businesses and even bigger lives.
Hey listeners, it's time for another incredible episode of the Empire Building Podcast. I'm your co-host, Wendy Papasan, and I'm here with the delightful Tiffany Fikes. Hello, Miss Tiffany. How are you?
I'm doing so good. Wendy, so good to see you.
Oh, yeah, so good. I'm so excited for this episode today. So I think you guys know, both Tiffany and I, we tend to play what's called the long game. And what's been kind of haunting me lately is in a world where, you know, we've got viral moments, overnight success, fast news cycles, fast exits for companies, and a lot of AI accelerating the pace of things. I've just been asking myself the question, you know, is the long game dead? Is it still relevant?
The immediate answer feels like, well, yeah, because everything's going to go faster, or the long game just gets shorter. You know, like we're just going to compress the long game.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't actually think that's true long term, mostly because I actually think that's the human superpower that is how y'all hate me for calling the AI robots, but like that's how we beat the robots. Like that's how we do that, because the robots can play the short game.
Yeah.
But the long game, they still have some learning to do.
Well, at least for the time being. I mean, I definitely think there will be probably more pivoting. There's going to be more need for people just to learn how to learn, you know? So that kind of this idea of like doing the same thing for the rest of your life, that's kind of dead anyway. That's been dead for a while. But I think, you know, young people coming out of college right now or high school, they're going to have to learn how to learn. That's going to be a big part of what they do. So I think the long game still is important, and, you know, learning how to pivot, learning how to learn is going to be as important as well.
This moment in time, the long game feels dead because we're so unclear on what the long game is now. Like, did we just wipe the table and we're starting a whole nother game? To me, that's the feeling I have about the long game. Because, like, my kids are in that, like, we're still trying to figure out who they're going to be and how they're, you know, what they're going to do. And there's no way to point them in any direction right now, because to your point, all they need to do is learn how to learn.
Yeah.
And I was feeling pretty good about our school choices that we've made thus far, because that we went all in on that 10 years ago. And we said, we don't care about anything except your ability to teach yourself something and learn. And so TBD if that was the right long game.
Well, my kids are studying writing and coding, so they're pretty much, you know, screwed at the moment. But I have all the faith in the world. First of all, they know how to critically think, which is huge. That is a skill that's not going to go away. And then, of course, learning how to learn. So anyway, we got a 2-part episode for you today. Our first part of our 2-part episode is really going to be to define what the long game means and what that looks like. A lot of you listeners, you're short game people. You know, you like a quick win. I know I do personally.
I do too, yeah.
I play the long game, but man, I love the short game too. I mean, give me that quick win. And then we're going to look into why people don't play the long game, or maybe they quit before it's really had a big effect. And then we're going to talk some examples of playing the long game at work and business. And then our second part of our 2-part episode is going to be, and this is the tactical part, the 7 things you need to do when you're tired of playing the long game. And I love this part. This is very tactical, very good if you've got a sales team to motivate people. But there's going to be tons of tactical takeaways there.
Yeah, so we're going to have 2 episodes. So if you want the what to do when you're tired of playing the long game, see us next week. We'll be back with that part. But this week's episode is going to be phenomenal. And so let's start with, what does the long game actually mean? It's funny. I actually went to, what is the origin of the long game. And it's really hard to figure out. Nobody really knows. It kind of goes back to a British thing that was published, I think in the 17 or 1800s, but it definitely references sports. And what it actually means, I don't know what the origin is, it's not really clear, but what it means is playing the long game is when you make decisions today based on who you intend to be or where you intend to be 10 years from now, not based on where you want to be at the end of the day or what you want in this immediate moment. So that's what we mean when we say playing the long game. So to your point, or to my reference I gave earlier with my kids, like I went all in on this like unfounded education model that said, we're not going to do tests. Sometimes we're not even going to do like real classes. We're just going to lean in on learning. That was super uncomfortable in the present. My parents did not understand it. Most of my friends did not understand it. But I was looking forward saying, what do I want my kids to be able to be in a decade or in 2 decades? And so that's the long game.
I love that. Well, I think about, so I have a good friend, her name is Shayna Moats, and she was the Rookie of the Year for all of Austin, Texas, not just our real estate office, but the whole city of Austin. And what she did was quite extraordinary. So she was a young mom at the time, and she really leaned into open houses, which a lot of us do when we're starting out. And, her husband was a corporate executive at Whole Foods. And, that was what she could do in order to kind of get out and meet people every week. So what's remarkable about her story is, though, she held open houses every single weekend day. And she ended up selling $10 million worth of real estate that first year. But the extraordinary part of that is that she did not have her first appointment until her 35th open house. Right? So that is what playing the long game looks like, right? And of course, it's not a 10 years, it is a compressed timeline, but a lot of people would have quit after their 10th open house or their 15th or their 20th or even their 30th open house. But she leaned in knowing that she was going to get better and better and better as she went. She knew that she would get better and better and better at the follow-up, right? And so from that 35th open house, a rocket ship all the way to the end where she was Rookie of the Year for the entire city of Austin, which is extremely competitive. I don't know how many realtors there are in your market, but there's 19,000 realtors in Austin. So that's incredible.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Things like budgeting, that's playing the long game. Choosing where your money's going to go so that you have it at the end of the month, so that you can invest it, so that you have it in 20 years or in 30 years. Like that's playing the long game. Hearing you talk about that, I think of like when I started my business with farming, any sort of marketing initiative where you're showing up over and over and over again, knowing you will get results if you just stick with it long enough. That's the long game.
Yeah. Well, I love that because actually just this morning I was talking to an agent who's thinking about joining our team. And I was telling her that when I started, Jay encouraged me to farm our neighborhood because he's like very much good at the long game. And of course,
oh yeah,
he had heard from other agents how powerful farming could be. And I just thought, well, that is so dumb. That's going to take forever. That's literally was my thought.
Yeah. And you're a long-term thinker.
Yeah, and I'm a long-term thinker. But at the beginning, I was hustling. I was driving across town for a lease lead. I was doing whatever I could to kind of make money and, to get that business. And had I done that, probably when I started in 2009, the average home price in my neighborhood might have been like $350,000. And it's probably something like 1.2 million now. So man, I wish I'd been farming this neighborhood for 17 years. And I've had that conversation a million times since then, and I still am not doing it. So there you go. There you go.
Well, okay, let's talk about why don't more people play the long game?
Yeah. Well, why not? You think they would.
But it takes such delayed gratification. Like I think it takes knowledge and discipline to play the long game.
Yeah.
Because you have to know it's going to pay off. You have to believe you've done the right research, so you're doing the right activities so that you know there's going to be results. So there's those things. It takes those two things. But also, like, it's boring.
It's boring.
And that truly, I think, is why most people don't play the long game, because
Yeah.
TikTok.
Well, it's boring and it almost looks like you're going backwards sometimes, you know?
Oh, say more about that.
Well, I know when we were building our wealth, right, we had these big wealth goals. And for the longest time, our net worth was flat. Okay. It was literally flat. And I can remember the first time Perry Hirth asked me to come and teach wealth building in Minneapolis. And so I charted our net worth. And there was this long line when we felt poor, this long line. And then there was like a hockey stick. And I remember asking Jay, I was like, what did we do right here? It's so funny. He was like, babe, he's like, that's a hockey stick. That's like all the work that we've been doing. I didn't even get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because it was a dramatic jump. And, you know, for so many years, we felt like we weren't making any progress, even though we were making incremental progress and we knew we were doing the right things. And then all of a sudden you look up and there's like a hockey stick that happens. But yeah, so it can be boring. It can look like you're going backwards, you know, in the long game. And that's not fun. You know, I personally like instant gratification.
You're also doing repetitive things. Like if you're doing the right things, you're doing them over and over again. And so I think that's boring.
Yeah.
My personality, anything I have to do more than once or twice is so boring to me.
It's boring. Yeah, it's boring. Well, and I think also it doesn't look fun on Instagram. You know, we live in a culture where we're always comparing ourselves to other people. And I think about what I do in the gym, and it's taken me 10 years to get to where I am. And I didn't want to show anybody what I was doing along the way. First of all, I don't look that cute in the gym. My lighting is not that nice. So I barely ever post videos. Someday I'll get my lighting set up so I look cuter. But that's why I think people like the 75 hard, you know, which is, it's very Instagrammable. And nothing against the 75 hard, but there's some things in there that are they're a little bit dumb because they're not sustainable. Not that you shouldn't do things that aren't sustainable, but like you're going to get better long-term results if you do sustainable things.
Yeah. It also can feel really lonely because if we're saying most people don't play the long game, that means you're one of the only ones. And I remember, I mean, with finances, with business, like you're looking around and everybody else is chasing the shiny objects or they're driving the fancy cars. And you've made this choice to not inflate your lifestyle at all. And it's just lonely. And that's a big part of how our circle started. It's a big part of what we talk about at Empire Circle. We normalize the long game, the looking silly, not having the Instagram, but knowing that you're awesome at what you're doing. Like the encouragement and support of other people who are doing the hard alongside you is just, it's transformative.
Well, and I can remember I had a big party at our house. A lot of top agents were in town. I think it was for my 45th birthday, something like that. And there were a lot of people coming to our house. And I was, not that our house was like a dump or anything like that, but I was there was some shame there for me about how my house looked. And about 2 years later, we were able to pay for a full remodel. We paid cash for it. And consequently, we have about $2.1 million worth of equity in our house. And, you know, if I wasn't playing the long game, if I wasn't thinking that way, you know, I would have maybe done a quick fix here or there. And, you know, today we live in our dream house. But that can be hard. It can be embarrassing not to like keep up with the Joneses, you know. The other thing is, you know, you can get burned out if you are not playing the long game. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people try to sprint a marathon. And we see that a lot in real estate. I see it a lot in my office where, gosh, I can remember the year that I started in real estate. So it was like me, Tim Heil, who's another top agent. A lot of you know him, and Keller Williams, and then some other guy. And this other guy ended up being rookie of the year that year because he was sprinting his marathon. And then he quit. He just quit that first year. I don't remember his name. He who shall not be named, this guy.
Some guy, whoever that some guy is.
Right? And then like here, Tim and I, a little bit more measured in our approach, perhaps, are still around. You know, we're still here 17 years later making a big impact.
Okay, so the statement, Rome wasn't built in a day. I thought this was fascinating, Wendy. You told me this before we started recording. So
Yeah.
talk about that.
Well, when I was writing this, I was thinking of all the cliches that we have in our head. And I thought, yeah, there's this Rome wasn't built in a day. And then I was like, well, how long did it take to build Rome? Guess how long it took, Tiffany?
I mean, I don't even know.
Over 1,000 years. Over 1,000 years. Okay, that's why Rome is still standing.
Yeah.
That is why Rome is still standing. And not just Rome, but, we talk about Roman culture. If you're a guy, you're always talking about the Roman Empire. I guess that was a thing a couple years ago. It's still around. It's still around. And there are plenty of cultures that are more of like a flash in the pan. So, and I think ultimately, what's hard about the long game, and maybe some people don't even want to hear this, but it forces you to become someone who's stable. And for whatever reason, that may not be sexy for you, but I think that is what most people want. They want relationship stability. They want friendship stability, even though, variety is the spice of life. This is how you build wealth. This is how you have influence. And this is ultimately how you have peace if you have this long-term game stability. And I know for me, the journey wasn't necessarily peaceful, but I feel a kind of peace now. And I don't know if you're the same way, Tiffany.
Yeah. Well, the words, when you say you've got to be stable, I have that same reaction. Oh, I don't want to be stable. That sounds horrible. Again, that goes to boring and repetitive and all of that. But the reality is I do want to be a stable friend. I want to be a friend that you can call when you've got something wrong. I also want to be your friend that you call for the weird stuff, but so you don't have to be, you don't have to give up your weird. Right. You don't have to give up your weird to be stable.
Yeah.
You can do crazy fun things and be stable. You can do a shiny object in your business and have this amazing stable farm like I have in my business now.
Well, and I think what's interesting is stability is actually what allows you that freedom.
Yeah.
Without it, you're actually trapped. I can remember Chris Heller came to speak at my real estate office, and at the time he was the number one agent, probably inside of Keller Williams. Later would go on to become the president of Keller Williams. And he told us that he had worked 122 days the prior year. This was the number one agent. And that blew my mind. And what he told us that day is that discipline actually equals freedom.
Yeah.
So getting up, doing what you're supposed to do every single day will allow you to eventually elevate. And then really you can do whatever you want. I mean, I think both of us agree. We don't have 100% freedom in our life, but we have a lot more freedom than most people do to choose what we do every day, every month, and really for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go through examples. I mean, we've given quite a few examples along the way, but let's go through some more examples of long game at work and at home.
Well, I think for me personally, your reputation, thinking about your reputation and doing the right thing in the moment, right? Doing the right thing in the short game is really honestly everything. I don't know about you, but I have conversations now with agents who want to join my team or clients or, other people who are like, yeah, we know how you work. We know how you treat people. We know, what you're going to deliver for us. And to me, that's literally everything. Nothing would be worse to me than for something to root that kind of reputation. And that is long game. That is long game. And that's powerful. That means you can walk into a listing appointment and people are ready to sign the paperwork. That means an agent walks into your office and you're not recruiting them to your team. They want to join your team.
Yeah, that's such a good example. Because you could do something in the immediate that pays off in the immediate, but kills that long-term game. That's a huge example.
Yeah.
I think skills and learning is another. If we're saying, all right, learning is the most important thing moving forward with AI, I think that's something that compounds. And how quickly you can learn is how often you have made yourself learn something. So whether it's in finances, leadership, lead generation, I mean, even tracking is one of those long game things. It's worthless for the first months.
Yeah.
It's absolutely worthless to you.
Sometimes I see people post data just from 1 month. I'm like, There's no perspective there. It's completely worthless,
Yeah.
To have a snapshot in the moment.
You've got to compound your learning and your ability to learn. And, I know right now with AI, my challenge that I'm doing is, all right, I'm going to the highest level tasks that I do and seeing how AI can help me do that. And not in a thought leader or thought partner kind of way, but in a, no, I want to see what you do,
Yeah.
robot.
Can you crank it out for me?
Yeah.
I say this all the time, but success looks different than you think it does. Success is repeatable activities done over time. I know for me and my real estate business, when I started, my kids were 3 and 5. I didn't have a lot of time. And so I chose the long game. I had a really small goal my first year, embarrassingly small. I wanted to make $15,000 so I could buy my first investment property, or not my first investment property, but a investment property. And so I chose to have 5 conversations with people on the daily. And I thought, if I can have 5 conversations a day, that means 25 conversations a week, which means 100 conversations over the course of a month, which is over 1,000 conversations over the course of a year on real estate. And so it was really simple for me. Real estate's not easy, but it is quite simple, which is, how many conversations can you have about real estate every single day? And I thought, if I could have 5 and I could do it every day. Did I do it every day? No, absolutely not. Yeah. Were there weeks probably when my kids were sick that I didn't do any? Yeah, probably. And when that week was over, I didn't beat myself up for being unsuccessful. The next day I just talked to 5 people, and that compounds. That looks like 17 years later, that looks like 2,500 past clients. That looks like $14 million in commission checks. That looks like almost $1 billion in home sales, right? That 5 people every single day.
I know a lot, like you mentioned this, building a business by referral is a very consistently built long game. So let's just walk our listeners through, like, all right, tactically.
Yeah.
Some of us know how to do this. Some of us don't, though. Like, even if you've been in the business for a long time. So the first step is you want to deliberately build a small, high value circle, and you want to talk to them consistently with care and usefulness. And you do not just talk to them when you need something from them.
And I know for me, when I first started, I was the co-author of The Millionaire Real Estate Agent's Wife. I felt a lot of pressure. I was chasing leads here, there, everywhere, doing lots of lease leads. I had a lot of internet leads. I was throwing people on my team and having them work the leads. And it was a lot. And I had a lot of success. I was making $1 million in 5 years, and it was a lot. And then in 2019, my team fell apart, and I was so sad. And at the same time, I thought, wow, this is an opportunity for me to build the business the way I wish I had done at that time, would have been 10 years earlier. And so I did this. I built it a business by referral. So creating that circle, and then you're going to identify, let's say, your top 100, top 200 people. I would say tier them up. Who are your A sphere? Who are your B sphere? Who are your C sphere? Who are the people that know, love, and trust you and are going to send you referrals? And then you're just going to do a really simple cadence, okay? Monthly for your inner circle. So how do I talk to 150 people in a month? Well, it's really easy. You start with talking to 5 people a day, right? You talk to 5 people a day. That's 25 people a week. That's 100 people in a month. And then you're going to do quarterly for your next grouping. So maybe you're talking to 100 people every month, and then quarterly, it's going to be a little bit more. And then, just what's your weekly target, right? Which is, for me, it was 100. If you want to be more successful in real estate, you talk to more people about real estate, right? So maybe it's not 5, maybe it's 6, maybe it's 10. Okay. So 10 looks like you've talked to 2,000 people over the course of the year. 20 looks like you've talked to 5,000 people over the course of a year.
And here's what you need to do. You need to track. So sexy. You're going to love it. You need to track those conversations and the referrals. But here's the thing. The tracking actually is what helps motivate you, because if you get over that first initial few months of doing it, you'll start seeing patterns and, oh, this is working. And it will give you little rays of hope to keep going, because then you also know who are those people that are going to refer you? You know what? My best friend in Nashville, I think she sent me one piece of business in the entire tenure of my career, because she just is not someone who's ever going to insert information into other people's. But I've got other people in my life who don't even know me that well and refer me business every month consistently. And so this person that at the beginning I maybe thought, oh, they're a second or third tier, I'm going to be moving them up because they are people I want to talk to more so I can help them more. And so I can just stay in front of them more.
And then you're just going to audit and upgrade every month. So you're constantly adding people to your database. People move away. You'll decide they're not in your top 100 or 150. And then you're just going to deepen those relationships as you go. And then continue to stay visible. You know, those of you that were at KW's family reunion and got to see Gary Vee, it was kind of mind-blowing for me to think about, wow, we have social media and it's free. I've never really thought about it like that. I think about all the money I spend in my business, and social media is absolutely free. So that's how you stay visible. You know, most people you know are on social media. And if they're not, they're probably not going to be someone who gives you a referral. They're just not. They're probably not going to be that person. And then you're just going to keep giving, right? Come from contribution, give without keeping score. Don't be a matcher, be a giver. And just repeat that over and over again. And then that's how you create a business worth owning. And honestly, for me, a life worth living as well.
Okay, so let's talk in the personal life. Long game in the personal life.
Yeah, long game.
One of the things, Wendy, that you say to a lot of different people, I hear you say it all the time, and I just had never heard anybody say it before you, is like, let's take marriages. Like, it takes 20 years to make a 20-year marriage.
Yeah.
And that puts it in this perspective of, that's a huge deal. Like,
yeah.
You're saying that makes me realize the value of those longer term, long play relationships. And so that's the first thing that comes to mind for me.
I love that. Well, I have the best long game story. I'm certain this cannot be topped. I don't know if I've ever told you. I think I've told you this one before, but I've got some friends, Daniel and Megan, and shout out to Megan. She's probably listening right now, but Daniel Flake, who's an amazing financial planner, by the way, before he was married, before he was dating, in college, he decided that he was going to start a 529.
Okay, for those of you that don't know what a 529 is, Wendy, tell everyone what a 529 is, because that's crazy.
It's crazy. No, it's literally crazy. A 529 is a college fund that you start for your children that can grow tax-free over time. So normally when people do this, I would say the normal time to do this would probably be when your kids are 10 or 11, or even later when you're starting to think like, oh my gosh, my kid's going to college in 5 years. I need to save some money for it. We were very lucky. We started a 529 because Jay's parents gave us some money when our kids were toddlers. And so that allowed it to grow over time. But Mr. Daniel Flake decided to start a 529 before he had a girlfriend, before he was married, before even the thought of children entered his head in college. And so here he was, the ultimate long game guy. He's like, I know I want to start a family. I know I want to have kids. I know I want them to go to college. So even though that's 30 years in the future, I'm going to start investing for it today.
That is the winner of the long game, because I
For
started
sure.
at 529 when my kids were born.
Yeah.
And that felt like I was winning the long game.
Yeah.
But no, that's crazy.
Yeah, I love that. So, and then, lots of other long game things. I mean, friendships are work, man. There's a lot of lonely people out there. And the reality is it's work to have a long-term friend. I mean, you and I have been friends for, I don't even know, 12 years, something like that. 13 years.
Yeah, something like that.
13 years. And it's work. It takes work.
And it's also an uncelebrated thing.
Yes.
It's one of the only relationships in your life. You don't have a friend's anniversary. Like, we can't even tell each other how long we've been friends, and we're really good friends.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's one of those things you need to mark.
Yeah. Yeah.
But parenting is an example of a long game. Like, some people parent like, oh, I'm just trying to move this kid to the next day to the next day. But you really win parenting when you decide, all right, who do I want this person to be in the future? What do I want my relationship with this person to be in the future? And then you parent towards that, because we're all making this up. Like, there's no actual playbook for parenting. But I know that's helped Joshua and I in our decisions is, who do we want this kid to be? Or what kind of a human do we want them to be? And then what kind of relationship do we want to have with them when we don't have control over the relationship anymore? And choosing everything along the way with that in mind helps you kind of figure out this thing that we're making up for 18 years with them in our home.
I love that. And I think health is the ultimate long game, because if you don't have a body, where are you going to live? And so about 10 years ago, I started to lift heavy, because I know that when you are in your 40s, especially for women, your muscle mass starts to decline rapidly. And if you don't really fight against it, then you wake up one day and you fall and you broke your hip and you're done.
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't know. Why am I like that? I don't know. But I have very specific goals. So, and you guys are lucky. You're my friends, because
I consider your goals to be lucky for me.
So I guess it was probably like 6 months ago. There was a group of older women. They were in a hot tub. Okay. They're in their 80s, I guess, something like that. They're in a hot tub. One of them, I don't know exactly what happened, passed out from the heat or had a stroke or something like that. And they're in a remote place. None of the ladies can pull this other lady out of the hot tub. They're not strong enough. Okay. So immediately when I read that, I put it on my very specific weird goals of my 80s. I want to be strong enough to pull one of my friends out of the hot tub in the 80s. So you guys are lucky. We're going to be there. We're going to be drinking our rosé or whatever we're drinking. Probably not.
Probably
and
not.
if something happens, I want to be able to pull you out, right? I want to pull you out. And that is playing the long game, right? That is playing the long game.
That is. No, that's super long game.
And then I would just add one more thing there, which is like your personal legacy. Like, what do you want to be known for in the world? And I had a really powerful thing happen to me at family reunion. So probably about 10 or 15 years ago, Jay and I said from the stage that we want to help people become millionaires. And I thought, like, how are we really doing that? So then I started to track it. Okay. So it's not easy to track because we do a lot of teaching and training. But whenever someone comes up to me and says, hey, you help me grow my net worth, I put it down on this list. I have it on my phone. It's a notes app. It's called The Millionaires. And so I had it happen. It's the best feeling when someone comes up to you. So it was Michael McIlvaine. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right. Steve McIlvaine. Sorry. And he came up to me and he said, I just wanted to let you know, I listened to one of your trainings. It was a while ago. I had a low net worth and I've hit millionaire status and even more. And I was so happy, right? I just was so happy. So what's your long game? Like, are you going to bump around? Are you going to do a lot of things here, there, everywhere? Are you going to commit to something, right? And teach and train? And what is your legacy? Because that's where the power is.
Okay, so how do you know you're winning the long game? I've got 5 ways that you can know. Number 1, you're less reactive. Now, that means you're less jumping to whatever's happening around you. You're less reactive to your phone. You're less reactive to even sometimes emotionally less reactive because, again, Wendy talked about that kind of level of peace. So you know you're doing the right things and you're focused on the right things. And so you're not as reactive to things.
If you have something that's thrown in your lap, you're not just taking it because it feels good and it's fun to change.
Which goes to number 2, you're more intentional. You know what you're saying no to and you know what you're saying yes to. Number 3, you are possibly being misunderstood, but you're willing to be misunderstood because it doesn't look like you're winning. Like when Wendy and I are winning financially in the long game, short term, when we invite somebody to our home, we're sort of embarrassed because it doesn't look like their home, or because I don't drive a fancy car or my kids are not in the quote unquote right schools, like all these things, you have to be willing to be misunderstood. And along the way, you will be. So you're winning if your path doesn't look like everybody else's. Number 4, you're making fewer flashy decisions. You still are allowed to do weird things, but you're doing them less. You're attaching yourself to the shiny objects less. And number 5, you care more about the direction than the speed. And that's hard. I like to go fast. Wendy, I think you're the same way.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I don't like being slow. And I'm raising another human in my home also who literally makes all of his choices as what can I do the fastest. And you've got to care more about the direction than the speed. And when you can feel that in your soul, you know you're winning at the long game.
I love that. Yep. Guys, empires are not built in highlight reels. They're built in the very ordinary days of getting up and doing the work. My husband Jay, said something in a class this week that really hit me really hard, which was, he said, consistency is intensity, right? Consistency is intensity, which it is. If you think about the amount of effort that you're putting over time, right? It is going to start to feel very intense, and it's going to have a significant effect. So
I love that. And if you're in the middle of the flatline season where it doesn't really feel like it's working yet, I want you to hear Wendy and I very clearly. The last part of that, it's not working yet. Yet is the most powerful word in the long game.
Wow. So smart. Well, guys, today's episode was so good. I love talking about the long game. I could talk about it forever. I really hope that you guys, as you're building your empires, think about how to do less and be more intentional with what you're doing. And today we covered everything that you need to know about what the long game is, the long game in business, the long game in your personal life, how to know you're winning. And we're going to tie this all up in a bow in part 2 of this episode. So make sure you tune in next Monday, where we're going to go over the 7 tactics of when you're tired of playing the long game, because this happens to everyone. Honestly, the long game is hard, and it's lonely, and it is boring. And yet Tiffany and I are both proof of, if you can play the long game, if you can do what needs to get done, you're going to look up one day and you're going to have that undercurrent of stability so that you can build amazing relationships, amazing marriage, amazing financial health, amazing wealth, and not all at once, right? But at some point you're going to look up, and then that will give you more peace than you've ever imagined. So thanks, guys, as always, for tuning in. And if this spoke to you, or if there's someone you know that could really benefit, if you know someone who is not playing the long game, please send them this episode, and make sure to tune in next time for our second part. And don't forget to go out and build that big business and even bigger life.
Have a great week.
Bye, guys.
Any text or materials generated by artificial intelligence, AI, should be reviewed for accuracy and reliability, as there may be errors, omissions, or inaccuracies. Warning: you must comply with the TCPA and any other federal, state, or local laws, including for B2B calls and texts. Never call or text a number on any do not call list, and do not use an auto dialer or artificial voice or pre-recorded messages without proper consent. Contact your attorney to ensure your compliance. This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not Keller Williams Realty LLC and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information.